this episode, David, Kate, Mallory, and Ryan all get together to have a roundtable episode to discuss which Zelda games have some of the best world building.
Hello and welcome to another episode of another Zelda podcast. Kate, I can't not say it every single time now. Another episode of another Zelda podcast.
Episode, another time of another Zelda podcast.
It's true. I am one of many hosts tonight, David Geisler. I'm here with my regular co-host, Kate May. Kate,
regular-ish. I'm good. How are you?
We're at my place tonight. It's the first time that you've been up to Chicago to record an episode.
Yes, it feels weird. We're not in my dining room, and it doesn't feel normal.
It is a little different. It's true. But also, we are joined by two other very special guests, but actually co-hosts of the show. Yeah. We're here with Ryan Kuhn and Mallory Kuhn. Our listeners are quite familiar with them because both of the Kuhns literally guest co-hosted 3 episodes for us in season 3, and they did a phenomenal job, as well as being blog writers for our website and stuff like that. I guess I'll go down the lane here. Mallory, how are you? Thanks for being here.
I know. I'm excited. Thank you for having us down. This is awesome.
Our dog is kind of like taking your seat. Are you okay over there?
I am thrilled with this scenario.
Really good lumbar support.
The lumbar.
This is my ideal situation.
She's sitting on the couch, and the dog's like pressed behind, and I think he's quite content.
It's amazing.
Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. It's so nice to meet. I mean, honestly, Kate,
person.
isn't it kind of exciting to meet the Kuhns?
Yes.
I know. It's so funny.
They're real human beings.
No, we don't just live in the internet.
So tell people.
We're
real.
We have 2 computer-generated experiences happening over here. Kate and I are really good voisover artists.
Really good.
Tonight we're going to be talking about world building and a little bit of context to the recording of this episode. Part of the reason I was able to ask all of you here is because we're having a small holiday party this evening at my place. Gingsy's in my place. So I was able to ask Kate, you, and Bill to come on down to share the fun.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, about a day or 2 after we talked, Kate, I honestly thought to myself, you know what? It's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm just going to throw it out to the Kuhns because we had been chatting about trying to meet up to record an episode maybe in Michigan or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, guys, if you're... I mean, honestly, I was like a little nervous. And I was like, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you can't, it's cool. But we're having a holiday party on the 18th. And Kate's coming up, and we're even going to try to record an episode. And do you guys think you could head over? Because I think we could even do like a roundtable episode of the 4 of us, let alone actually meeting in person. And I think it was a group message to both of you, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was, because it was it was a group message with the 2 of you and Kate and the 2 of us, because we were talking, because listeners of the show might remember I don't know, maybe not.
Well, okay. Oh, yeah, I can set that up for you. It's
okay,
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the truth is we met both Mallory and Ryan, Kate, as you might recall, as a Rambo Kuhn on Twitter, and looks like we have another listener feedback from an MJ Kuhn on Twitter. Was it MJ Kuhn back then?
Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, they started to become some of our like power listener feedbackers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you guys have a wonderful story about how you found the show, which I'll ask you in a second. But as you were saying, Mallory, we were all in a group chat.
Yeah, well, we were just like, how surreal, because we started out as just really big fans of the show, and I can't remember if it was Ryan or me that said to the other one, like,
It was you.
Can you imagine like explaining to like 3 years ago us that we're going to be in literally a group text with the hosts of our favorite podcast? Like, it was just kind of a weird thing, but super cool.
Well, it's kind of grown. It's grown because you reached out, and then we ended up reaching out to you to be writers, and then a legitimate relationship was formed,
and now you live with us.
Wait, what?
Now
Hold
we're
on.
all roommates.
We all live here now.
Us with Herman and Schrodinger the cat.
Oh my gosh, Herman.
He's licking the microphone.
For our listeners, my dog Herman and my cat Schrodinger are absolute. So basically, the couch right now is Schrodinger pressed up against Kate, pressed up against Herman, pressed up against Mallory. There's a lot of dog and cat.
It's cozy
affection.
town, baby.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're just gonna keep on going here. So actually, Ryan, perhaps I'll ask you.
Yeah.
Before we get into our world building conversation, I have a little bit of listener feedback here too for all 4 of us. off mic, I believe, maybe you guys spoke about it on one of the episodes you recorded. First of all, thank you so much for recording 3 episodes for this show back in season 3 when times were tight and times were tough. Kate, you might recall, I reached out to the Kuhns and because they live together and I really like this show to be people physically together, just like we are tonight. And also because Ryan, you and I had already had this relationship with you starting your podcast, Brothers-in-Law, through Sixfive. I basically just said, would you guys be interested in hosting an episode of AZP? I didn't really know what it was going to come of it. I knew both of you had nice personalities because we did that quiz episode. And I was like, they've got really good chemistry. And I thought, let's just try. And it was such a treat and such a pleasure because honestly, Kate, for me, it was like the first time I got to listen to the show. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what would be said next when they did their episode. And then you guys came back for 2 more episodes and I'm so grateful. But Ryan, you've told me a story off mic about what your experience with Another Zelda podcast was way back in our season 1, how you found us. I think there's like a road trip involved.
There's definitely a road trip involved.
So we were starting really fresh with you guys at that point in time, and we had a trip planned to go on a cruise down. We had to get down to Florida and everything else and hit the cruise ship. Planned everything out. We had a flight that gave us plenty of buffer time to crash in a hotel that night and then go to the cruise the next day. We get to the airport, and as we parked and walking into the terminal, my phone just starts going off the hook, and it's notification saying, flight is delayed, flight is delayed, flight is delayed, flight is canceled.
Oh, whoa.
Yes.
So
And that's like from Michigan to Florida?
Down to Orlando. We got up there, we were trying to get something to work. It was a smaller flight, so like they only had
airline. The next flight out was like not
24
until
hours later.
After the cruise would have already left.
Oh no!
And we didn't have like vacation insurance because like I don't know, we
didn't think it would be that.
We didn't even think about it.
Didn't think it would be the real thing to worry about.
Yeah.
So we tried getting other flights. Everything's booked or this way overpriced. So we looked at each other. It's like, all right. Road trip.
Let's do it.
Overnight.
Wait, so I'm guessing you did the math that if you drove nonstop, your ETA would be before the ship leaves?
Before the ship leaves, yes.
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
We drove through the night.
Yep, through the night, through the winding roads of Kentucky and Tennessee.
Yeah, in like fog and driving
fog and rain.
And we made it with like literally half an hour to spare before the boat left. But we listened to AZP like the whole way.
The whole way, yeah.
That's how we stayed awake driving at like 2 a.m.
See, hear that, Kate? We keep people awake.
Yeah.
That's got to be our new poll quote. We keep people, Another Zelda podcast, we keep people awake.
It's great. It's great. Yeah. It was good though.
Yeah.
It was like why we like made it.
I was kind of, because I think we started getting tweets from you around that time. Maybe you were even tweeting in the car. I really don't know as you were listening because it was kind of peppering in. Did you know about us before the trip?
He did.
I did. I started listening a little bit here and there. I was just getting the podcast.
Right.
So Zelda is still one of my favorite games. So I found you guys, started listening. It was great. And then had a few episodes downloaded onto my phone. So didn't have to worry about data, obviously. And then we had a nice
we listened to all of them.
hour trip.
Every single one. We binged because I think you guys were like partway through season 2 at that point.
Yeah.
And we binge listened to like your entire catalog.
Guys, that's almost 30 episodes.
It
Yeah.
was,
Well, I guess that's about
a 20-hour
15
trip.
I was gonna
15,
say,
yeah, that's
we were
about right.
driving for a long time.
I could not listen to myself for that long.
See, you know what? You
I
should
could
be
not.
comforted. You are delightful to listen to. For
Wow,
that long,
that's
so.
commitment. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate
Well,
it.
I think that's a heck of a story,
Yeah.
and I love this weird evolving relationship that has happened over the past couple of years. I consider you friends. I'm happy to have you in the condo here. And again, like I said, I think I said this in the pre-show. Kate, Ryan was expressing to me, and maybe it was Mallory too. I can't quite remember. We were all chatting in the beginning about like, oh yeah, we were excited to come here. We're, very excited. And I was thinking like, I think I'm more excited that they're coming, so I can finally meet the Kuhns.
Yeah.
Like we recorded a couple other episodes earlier today, and I was just like a kid in a candy store. Whoops, sorry there, Kate.
How
There's your
dare you
microphone.
touch my microphone?
It was so exciting. Well, let's get into our listener feedback, and then we'll get to our main topic. I just can't resist. This is such a special situation.
It's proof that you can meet your heroes.
You can.
It's true.
Wait, which direction does that go? Because if you're talking about the Kuhns, then yes. Like
We're the
we met the
heroes.
Kuhns. Wait, we're the heroes? No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, Herman's a hero.
Herman's the hero. He's dead center on the couch right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, here we
hello.
go. I'm going to be reading my listener feedback from my laptop monitor, which is going to be a little weird for me. It's a strange angle, but I'm going to get into it. So over here on Instagram, Thomas Robert sent us a message that said, pardon me, that wasn't in the message. He said,
Are you sure?
just to say a massive thanks to David and Kate for this podcast, which I recently discovered through an advert on Facebook. This past year or so hasn't been an easy one for me, and the friendly conversation about my favorite video game has been great company for me on my dog walks. Thanks again, and all the best, keeping them coming. Favorite is spelled with a U, and he said advert. This is a gentleman from across the pond, I do believe.
Or north of us, yeah.
Right?
Or a very fancy person.
Or both.
Or both.
Oh man,
Most likely both.
Thomas Robert, thank you for sending us that message. We do hear about people listening to us, like when they're on their walks or they're taking their bike rides or they're doing whatever they're doing, and that's really cool. And if we are any company at all, that's awesome. Thank you for being company to us by sending us this message. I think that's really great.
Yeah, that's my podcast listening time is the doggy walks.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I say that's when my mother-in-law listens to us for the
Yeah,
brothers.
that's true.
Our brothers-in-law.
Yeah.
On a dog walk. I'm
Yep.
zooming in on the next listener feedback. It's a little small here. Thanks for the vamp, Ryan.
I gotcha.
Talk amongst
He's like,
yourselves.
I'll take every opportunity to plug brothers-in-law.
Listen to us.
That's a wonderful show. Okay. Over here on Apple Podcasts, Justin WV gave us a review, and it says, the podcast that got me started listening to podcasts.
Whoa.
Celeste had kind of a similar story, but anyway,
Wow.
that was like we were like the first vowels and consonants, everyone. So Justin WV says over here on Apple Podcasts, Kate is just like the animal whisperer. She has subdued the dog and the cat. They are like in
They're
full
mine now.
nap mode.
They're coming home with me. I'm sorry.
I need to take a picture of this. This is insane.
I know. Look at this. I love it.
Is this what the
Sorry,
comment
audio
said the whole
listeners.
time? They're just watching it.
Yeah, right. This is the comment. It's an impression. Okay, so love the show. This is the first podcast I ever subscribed to, but I put my headphones in and listen while I'm out working in the sun, and it makes my days go by much faster. I've listened to every episode multiple times, and I eagerly await the new episodes. Congratulations on 3 seasons, and welcome back, Kate.
Aw.
Nice. Oh, this was back in August. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, it is kind of cool. What's been going on for season 4 here. The next one is over on YouTube, and that is Herman's dog food.
and did not move.
Robot dog food.
Yeah, robot dog. Yeah, the one robot feeds Herman, one robot feeds Schrodinger.
It's a house full of robots.
You don't even know. There's 4 more robots that vacuum the floors. And then like
We met 2
every
of
light
them.
is a robot.
Did you just say we've met
We
two
met
of
2 of the
them?
robots. Yeah, they cleaned the floor when we got here.
Yeah, you met Goofy and Betty.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
you named them?
Yeah, well actually it's not Betty, it's Betsy. I let my nieces and nephews name the living
Oh.
room vacuum, and that one they wanted to call it Goofy.
Makes
And then
sense.
we named the kitchen robot Betsy, and then the bedroom one doesn't have a name yet, and the office one is Mortimer.
So we obviously have to name
We have to
other
name the
robot.
bedroom
Yeah,
one.
you
Yeah.
need to name the bedroom vacuum
That's what I'm
cleaner.
hearing. We have an assignment.
Okay, here we go. Let's get back to it. Arthur Spears. This one's very small. It's hard for me to read from this angle I'm at.
Lean in real close, old
I
man.
know. Look at this. There, maybe if I do this. All right, I've brought my microphone down. Arthur Spears over on YouTube, in response to the A Link to the Past episode, our season 2 finale.
Okay.
When we played and reviewed A Link to the Past, Kate. Arthur Spears says, "Hey AZP family, love this episode. Today, I beat both the original Legend of Zelda and A Link to the Past. Thanks to you guys for the motivation. For the first time, so I feel your pain with this game. I played both on Switch and used the rewind feature heavily. Can't wait for the review of the original game. LOL, love to all of you, green heart emoji." Kate, I think you used the rewind feature on A Link to the Past.
No, I didn't. Yes, I did. I did a lot.
Yeah, that was an interesting situation playing that game for both of us. Neither of us were, controversially, neither of us were excited to play it, quite frankly. And we did it, and we pushed through, and I think we found a lot of ways to appreciate it, and I think we learned why it was such an important game when it came out.
Yeah, and the rewind feature definitely helped my impression of it as well.
I will say I'm playing Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link right now on that little Zelda Game & Watch thing that came out.
Oh, yeah.
And basically it gives you an automatic save state because you can just in an instant push the power button and the whole thing freezes and turns off, and then you can just push that power button and it picks up right where you left off.
But a Switch does that too.
Great.
I'm not saying, that's one of my favorite features in Switch in general is whatever I'm playing, turn off.
And it's
pauses
good.
where you're at. Yeah.
Well,
no matter
that's
what game I'm playing.
That's good to know. Maybe I'll start playing that on the Switch. But at least on the Game Watch, my point is that auto save state is a lifesaver. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not using rewind because it doesn't exist on the Game & Watch, but it does on the Switch. But I don't think I could play the Adventure of Link, like full regular cartridge where you only have the 3 lives and you can't save.
Yeah.
That's getting rough. That's getting tough.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
too spoiled for that.
Right.
Perhaps,
I know, right?
perhaps that is the case. So you do a little bit of save states on the Switch, Ryan?
Yeah, whenever like I need to turn it off because whatever, it's bedtime because I'm old too. I just turn
But
it
I
off.
think if you
and
close out
it.
of the game, like
Yeah, if you close
I
out
were
of the
to pick up
game-
the Switch and play Animal Crossing
Yeah.
in the meantime, you would lose
it
progress.
suspends the current software
Yeah.
if you power off? Oh, yeah. Okay, interesting.
and then you start back up, hit the button 3 times, and
Right in. I love it. Mallory, I think, is the only one here who hasn't played A Link to the Past. So
I
we
have
can.
not. Played
I've
it.
tried.
Throw some shade that way.
She
I-
has no desire.
I
It took a
cannot
lot to get her to
weigh
play
in.
Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask. So.
But I loved those ones once I
Yes.
played them, so maybe I should branch out more again.
It's
I'm
the
sure it'll be-
it's honestly it's the graphics for her. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're when she's spoiled with
I
all the
say
new stuff.
I'm a spoiled young gamer.
Need those glossy graphics.
I do.
All right, let's keep on moving here. Let's see. Over on YouTube for the Video Game Summit 2021 episode, Jack Faulkner. So the last time we had a 4-person episode was Video Game Summit, what was it, 2019 or 2018? When we did the Water Temples live episode? And it was you, me, Celeste, and Lizzie, wasn't it, back
Yes,
then?
yes.
That's the last time we've had 4 people on the mic. So
Wow.
it's been a while. It's been almost 2-3 years. Very
Wow.
exciting. Okay, let's see. Though here we just have pets on the couch. We don't have like people walking by and staring at us and like kind of listening. Like we were a little bit on
This is
display.
way better.
We can invite
Yeah.
people from like down on the street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and be like, just come stare
Just
at us.
please
Wanna
walk
come
by
up
and stare.
or-
We'll put
Helps
some
with the
stanchions up just like at the video
Yeah.
game convention. Yeah,
Or we
that'd
could
be good.
record on the sidewalk.
There we
Yes,
go.
yeah. Well, okay, let's stop right now. Just get around it right
All
now.
right, let's go.
Let's go. Grab the mics. Jack Faulkner says over on YouTube regarding the Video Game Summit 2021, a live Zelda quiz episode. Another podcast episode already? Count me in. Guess I know what I'll be listening to for the next half an hour. Along with the top 10 lists, the quizzes have become some of my favorite, again with a U, episodes, and it's awesome to hear more of the AZP family having fun together. Winky emoticon. Winky emoji is what they're called.
You must be specific.
I'm about to say yes.
Very different.
Yeah, the quiz episodes are great. Mallory and Ryan, the two of you, definitely. You were 2 contestants in. I think it might have been the first time your voices were on the show.
I think
Was
so.
that
Might have been,
first
yeah.
Zelda quiz we did back in season 3, early season 3? Maybe it was the 5th episode.
Yeah.
Can you, just for the sake of conversation, speak to that experience at all?
I don't know Zelda as well as I thought I did.
I know. Well, and also it's for anyone that does a quiz thing later, the whatever.
We're definitely going to do more quiz episodes. They
Yeah.
just take a lot of work, so I think we can only do like 1 or 2 a
one a
season.
season.
Yeah.
But it's so when you're recording, your brain goes empty. So
Because there's a little bit of that like on stage feeling, right? You're like,
or it's
everyone's listening to
I
me.
swear I know this, but I don't right now. Yeah.
I think you guys did okay, if I remember correctly.
We did all right. We didn't
We did better than
embarrass
Dan.
ourselves, I don't think.
Better
yeah.
than Dan. Yeah.
Forgot about that.
What was interesting, Kate, is in that episode, Mallory and Ryan played basically, I think you basically played as a team.
Yeah,
Like
we
you-
cheated and
we
we
kinda
still
did.
didn't win.
We had everybody, we had Dan, Celeste, Shane, and then the 2 of you submit their answers via like a Google form and record themselves, and the 2 of you kind of would bounce back and forth and then pick an answer and then go for it. It was a blast. It was tons of fun. It was
Super
that
fun.
episode that made me realize, and simply the fact that you guys recorded together, I was like, I think they could probably carry an episode. All right, let's see here.
It's definitely humbling to like take a test on something you think you know well, because that's like, I would go to trivia nights for a certain topic and then be like, oh God,
Right.
people know way more about this than
Yes.
I do.
Right.
I know,
Well,
I
and then
know.
on the podcast, it's like, oh no, people that also know this are going to listen to this.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's that, yeah.
And call me out on it.
They're going to know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm putting myself out there to show what I do and don't know, and that I think I know things. So we stay pretty lighthearted with those quiz episodes. I always try to put a mild disclaimer in there somewhere about how it's all just about being a fan and having fun, and that
Yeah.
sometimes not knowing is just as much fun as knowing
Yeah.
and being like, oh my gosh, that's what it was. You know what I mean? Okay, so over here on YouTube, I have 3 left, so I'm going to move a little quicker. Over here on YouTube for the Legend of Zelda Dreaming Island episode. That's the most recent episode that Kate and I did of this season, episode 4. Syoran, S-Y, it's a little far away, Syaoran, says, so good to hear you both. It's like a trip to a not so long ago past.
Aww.
Love you. You are great. Winky emoji. Oh, I think it's because we were recording another episode together there, Kate. Kate, you've been able to join a few episodes here in season 4, and it really has warmed my heart personally, but I kind of already told you that in our first episode of this season.
It's been awesome.
It's an absolute pleasure and a treasure to have you back, and also fun to hang out right here, the 4 of us.
Yeah.
Also, guys, it's already recorded, but Kate and I are already recorded the season finale for this episode. So the episode that comes out after this one was, what did we do? Hyrule Castles?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it
Yes.
was.
Ooh.
Yes.
We traveled through time and recorded the finale.
Wow, that's
There's a lot of
impressive.
that.
That is impressive.
very
Then we came back.
There's a lot of traveling through time magic with another Zelda podcast.
It's appropriate.
It's appropriate. Yeah, right. Yeah, the AZP timeline is about as messed up as the Zelda timeline.
Yes.
Okay, 2 more real quick. Let's see. Over on our Breath of the Wild game versus reality episode, which came out just recently. That's where Dan and I went to my land in Kentucky and camped there, and then we kind of compared and contrast what it was like to do the things in Breath of the Wild compared to doing them in real life. And it was actually a really fun episode. Sylvan Strength says, Sylvan Strength on YouTube says, oof, our expectations of the cost of that expansion pack didn't age well. Because at the time when Dan and I recorded the episode, the expansion pack, the Nintendo 64 expansion pack, had been announced for the Nintendo Switch Online. And there wasn't an announcement of price. And I said to Dan, like, yeah, it's going to be probably like an extra $5-6.
Ooh.
And of course, we all know now that it was literally $30 for that expansion pass.
Yeah.
And
So close.
I don't know. I don't want to hate on it too much, but does anybody have any thoughts on the $30 expansion pass? There's a lot to it.
I did not purchase it,
Yes,
so that's
I
my
I did
thought.
not
We did
purchase
not
it
either.
yet, but I might sneak it in without her knowing. So
Oh, I'm not going to stop you.
okay, fine.
Yeah, it's
Done.
right on. I did buy it. I did purchase it, and it was a little bit on a whim, and I wasn't quite sure.
He had a couple beers.
Yeah.
He's like,
No,
"Let's
no,
usually how it
do
goes.
it."
Good idea at the time.
I'm just gonna buy it.
Yeah, I've seen the games you play, Kate. I've seen what you call baby games, which are these like
Yeah.
$10 to $12 games that are like 3-4
10
hours.
to 12. Try like 5 to 10.
Oh, really? Wait. Let's tell.
Cheapy McCheaperson over here.
I'm a little bit making fun, but I'm actually not, because we did chat about this a while back. You were kind of joking about your own game selection sometimes, and you were talking about how you tell Bill that you get quote unquote baby games.
They're baby games because they're like 4-hour total play time. They go on sale for like $3, but they're just things that you can like shoot through really quickly. It's not like a $60, 20-hour long game, because sometimes I don't have the patience for that, and I just want to
Right.
find some hidden objects in a forest hut. Okay?
Don't we all?
And that's
Oh,
what
so that
babies
sounds
play.
like right up your alley.
It actually really
Yeah.
does.
That's
Yeah.
what
Oh,
babies
Might
by
have
the
to
way-
get some Rex for baby games.
What was it? Was it Oxen Free that you recommended to me last time we were together?
Yes.
I did download it, and I've been playing it, and I love it.
Yes.
It's great. It's very
That is
interesting.
not a baby game. That's kind of a creepy,
Oh.
scary game.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
That
All
one's
right.
good.
Good to know.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I do think I do recommend Oxen Free. Oxen Free is basically a dialogue game, but you're walking around a little bit. But Herman, come on, you're crashing the show, dude.
Oh my.
All right. Anyway. Okay. Let's do this final listener feedback and keep things moving. Oh, this is from someone we haven't heard from in a long time. Actually, here, let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, so this is from a Rambo Kuhn, and it says, "Hey, at another Zelda pod, just finished listening to at Raptor Paint and Dan's episode, and you need to do a fun geocache on the land for people to find, though. Also, when you do get too detailed with food and water, that game just becomes Harvest Moon, and that is no fun for me, though. MJ Kuhn Books loves it. Remember Rambo Kuhn and MJ Kuhn Books?
I'm not
Kate,
familiar.
From season 1?
No, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, we
Are
haven't
you
heard
guys
from them
cheating
in a
on us?
while.
Who are you guys cheating on us with?
Ryan, would you like to speak to that tweet at all?
Yes. So
I have to answer for your tweets in person.
I say did not expect this.
The effects of social media are real.
I saw it come in and I was like, I can't not have it on this episode. Because it's also like a fun little nostalgic throwback to season 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, first of all, with Harvest Moon, I detest those games.
Do not
I do
slander
not like
Harvest Moon in my presence.
them. I am. So I just don't like those kind of games. It's like even Animal Crossing and stuff like that.
Animal Crossing.
I apologize to everyone in the room because I know you all play.
I have never played Animal Crossing.
Me either.
But I think it's because it's not for me, but I think it's cool. So I'm trying to I'm trying to find some gray space here.
Okay. I'm about to say, I
There's
guess
a lot of fight to break out here.
Yeah.
No, I really don't.
Mallory and Ryan were great, but they fought each other. They physically fought each other.
Crazy. Yeah.
She would win too, actually. So,
What I know.
but no, like, and you guys, because you guys were talking about like using games that you have played where like you have to drink water. Even I think Dan was bringing up a game talking about that. I'm like, man, that is really annoying. I don't like that.
It just pulls you out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that.
And then with the GPS caches, I ventured into the TikTok world and saw videos with guys who do GPS caches, and then you just find them in everywhere. And sometimes it's just finding a little time capsule, and sometimes it's like an actual game to do something in there, and then you add a little bit to it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I got heavy into the geocaching back about 10 years ago when it was like kind of when the GPS was on. It was even a little bit before GPS phones. You would use a literal GPS tracker.
Thing? Yeah.
And you get your coordinates right. It got a lot easier when you could see it on the map. But I used to geocache in Milwaukee a lot. Whenever I'd go camping, I'd geocache. And then it's just kind of totally dropped off the map for me for the last 7 or 8 years. But you saying that made me think like, I totally had to put Zelda geocaches
Yes.
on. But then again, wait. Maybe I shouldn't, because won't that bring the public onto the land, which is private?
That's true.
But maybe it's like, maybe I can just do a secret.
You can like put it by the road. I haven't been to
By the
land.
road.
I don't know how
Put it
your
by the
land
road.
is set up.
Nevertheless,
Watch for cars.
maybe
I
like an
assume there's a
internal,
road somewhere.
maybe an internal geocache where it's not shared on one of the public sites or something would be a lot of fun. I think that would be cool. Or maybe some kind of
Nearby
what?
park or nearby,
Well, what could be fun is
Forest or
on the
something.
land if you create not a scavenger hunt, but a little bit of a geocache. Like when we finally get a bunch of people out there, like that.
Yeah,
could
we
be
could do
kinda
it just
cool.
for us. You know, just for the
Do
people
you-
that
Yeah,
are
let me my
invited.
hair.
Special podcast,
Just the
people
cool
only.
kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
just that.
All right, everybody. I'm having a blast. You guys good?
No,
Oh, yeah.
You got, yep.
No,
It's not good.
sorry.
No.
never good.
I'll try harder.
Yeah. I'll try harder. Oh, Ryan, I want to talk about this shirt you're wearing. Look at
What?
this. A Link to the Future. It's Link standing in a DeLorean, coming out of the DeLorean, looking like Marty McFly. There is I forgot, the flux capacitor with a Triforce over it. Link is holding up his hand, checking his Triforce on his wrist, just
Nice.
like Marty McFly checks his watch. Where this shirt's great. You joked with me before we started recording because both of the gals are dressed to the nines right now.
Yes.
And I at least threw a sweater on to feel a little bit more fancy because I have a Zelda shirt on too. And you said, Dave, I feel a little underdressed, but I said, this shirt's too cool. You got to keep it on. Can you tell me where this shirt came from or what the story is?
This would be a gift from the wife, so I'm going to point that to her.
Better give me credit. No.
Wait, Mallory, where'd you find this?
On Etsy. Yeah. Where do we
Wow.
find all cool things on Etsy?
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff on Etsy. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yep. I found it
I
on
think
Etsy.
it's
and
where
he loves both of those
a
things. I had
nice
to get
wood
it.
box with glassware came.
It
Oh, the
it
AZP
may-
glass you guys got me?
It may very
Oh,
well be.
awesome. I'm going to drink that. I'm going to use that tonight. Yeah, that really touched my heart when you guys sent that. That was really, really cool. I can talk about that more some other time. It was really special because that was during a hard time. But world building.
World building.
Let's do it.
Yes.
An idea of my husband's, actually. Funny
Seriously?
enough.
Yeah.
He suggested that we were at dinner and the text messages were coming through like, well, what should we talk about? And he's like, what about like world building? And I was like, that's actually a really good idea for a roundtable episode
Yes.
because everyone can talk about their favorite, version of that or their idea of or their opinion of like which game did it the most successfully.
Yeah.
And I was like, go you, because he's not a Zelda player. Like he's played Breath of the Wild a little bit.
Right.
I have, trust me, tried so hard to get him to play everything, but he has his own video game taste.
Sure.
We're still married somehow, but
Around
yeah.
someday.
But I was like, that's a really good idea.
I was treated by the universe about 2-3 months ago when I was working in the office and I heard the sounds of Skyward Sword coming from the living room. And I came out 2 hours later to discover that Ginksy had on her own organically started playing it. It is literally her first Zelda game ever.
I'm sorry, Gingsy.
It's technically the right way to start it.
I know it's
That's
technically
right.
the beginning.
That's true.
She liked the first couple hours. And she actually played a good 20-25 hours. And I actually
Wow.
kind of purposely wouldn't come out into the living room when she was playing because I didn't want to give her any stress. I wanted her to have a unique authentic experience of playing the game, solving the puzzles on her own, all that kind of
around
stuff.
The corner, make this like, oh, I'm so proud of her.
There may or may not have been a few times where I was like peeking around the corner. Right? That's not an exaggeration. And I was like, I would hear the part she's in. I would visualize with my imagination what she was doing because I was really excited about that. But where she stopped was the Gingsy. Gingsy is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. She's a senior data scientist. She's a manager at a tech company. She blows my mind daily. But Gingsy will tell you she does not do maps. she will not and cannot translate what a map equals to real space. And so she literally would never even check the map while playing. She would just try to kind of remember
someone I know.
where she was.
I was just going to say,
you too, Mallory?
We should never play together because that's what Ryan's always like, check the map when we're playing any game and I get lost. And I'm like, it means nothing. I can't. It's dots. I don't know.
Mallory, how far have you gotten into Skyward Sword? We won't judge you if it's not that far.
No,
I will judge.
I've beaten Skyward Sword.
Oh, what?
Oh, dang.
But I guess
just the
I
look
don't,
on your face made me think.
No, I don't know the part where I'm supposed to need a map, I guess.
Well,
So the part where
freestyling
Gingsy respectfully said, "I'm out." Is the part when you're the first time you're in the desert and there's the like octagon thing and you have to put your little blue balls of light on the map when you're looking at the old map to know where to walk on the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, fair. I did hate that part.
She got to that part and she said, "Dave, what am I supposed to do here?" And I said, "Well," she was trying many things.
Yeah.
Like she never asked me about a puzzle. She'd work through a puzzle. And she said, I've been on this like for 40 minutes. I don't know what to do here. And I said, what you do is you switch to your map and you can mark it and then follow the blue lights. And she literally said, "Okay, yeah, I'm done."
Tap out.
She tapped out. She said, she kind of told me, she said, "This doesn't mean I hate Zelda. I actually like this game. I'm done."
I feel like when I do remember that part, and it is, I had a hard time with it too. I think I had Ryan just like
usually when something happens and she's annoyed with the game, she just throws the controller at me just to do it.
No,
like,
when I throw the controller at you is when I am nearly dead in a boss battle.
Yes, and somehow I have to make my way.
And I don't pause. I just throw it at him.
No.
You say go. And what, Ryan, you're just like reading a book on the couch and all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, I'm playing."
Well, I'm watching it because we have a great dynamic where like we watch each other like play the game and everything else, and like kind of like, well, check that. You should check that, or look over there. Like we kind of
productive backseat drivers.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But then like I'd be watching like, oh, she's just doing okay. Now I'm playing.
We've spoken to that in the past. How Zelda. What's one of the things that's nice about Zelda, Kate, is that even though it's a one-player game, it can be a multiplayer game in that many people can experience at the same time. Yeah. I absolutely have memories of playing Zelda with both my sisters watching and engaged in what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyways. Okay, so when we talk about, oh boy, how do we get off world building that far? It was probably my story.
We can segue right back into world building in Skyward Sword. I mean, since you and I are playing it right now, and like what our opinions are of
let's start with
the
Skyward
lack
Sword.
thereof.
Wow.
Tell me
coming
more.
in hot.
Tell me more.
When you think about what world building means in a game, what are the things what does that mean for you?
What it means for me is like, is there an abundance of places to go? Are those places to go different from each other? Are they complex? Are they simple? Are you kind of locked into only being able to access part of it? Or are you kind of able to explore freely? Or like, how complex is the environment?
Interesting.
That's kind of how I thought of it, but maybe you guys have a different definition.
I like that.
And I can go right along with the flow.
So you're looking for almost like mechanically, is there good world building? Aesthetically, is there good world building?
Yeah, that's kind of how I was thinking of it.
Interesting.
But hey, if you have a different view, we can talk about all of it.
Let's go down the line here. I'm actually curious all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, because it's a broad topic, and that's definitely a part of it too. I also kind of equated it for my like notes, at least, for to world building for like when I'm writing, which includes things like the lore and the magic system and any the different types of beings that exist in this world and stuff like that. So I include all that, but also definitely the size of the world, how real and how robust it feels, how lived in it feels, stuff like that.
The world being built, literally built. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that way you could think of Skyward Sword, I think, completely differently, because I think it has a lot of strengths with what you're talking about and a lot of weaknesses with how I'm defining it.
Yeah.
So
fascinating. What's it like for you, Ryan, when you think world building?
I'm honestly on the same page. I was with my wife. So
rude.
sorry.
You're outvoted.
I signed a contract. I have to agree with what she says.
I didn't know about this contract.
Yeah, it was a contract between
advantage
Ryan
of
and I. It was really complicated.
But no, I agree. Like it's more than just like there is the physical world, but you got religion, you got the people, you got every aspect that you view and what's going on. I mean, you get dropped into a random part of the world, and it's more than just the physical aspects around you. It's the people, it's the faith, it's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's what sometimes when I think about world building, which I'm really kind of blown away right now, Kate, because I feel like the answer you gave is the answer that I'm supposed to give. Like based on like our usual perspective on things, like the game mechanics and how it's built and how it looks. You're frowning right
It's
now.
whatever you want
You're
it to
frowning
be.
at me.
Because I'm saying don't be so hard on yourself with my face.
But
You didn't sign a contract with her, okay?
What I'm saying is that for me, I think when I think world building, I think like what's the story that happened before, like what has happened before the game starts, what and also then how well are the moments between the moments, how cohesive are they, and then for me that's world building. So for example, I almost a really really good example of simple but perfectly executed world building would be like Portal 2 for me, that video game, where there's not a lot going on, but every little detail, every little thing you look at in the context of everything, you can build, everything's consistent with a certain amount of rules or story rules or something where I know what universe that game is in. When you're playing a game, maybe some Zelda games do this, and maybe hopefully this is what we'll explore tonight, and all of a sudden there's this like hard left or something like that where it's hard to... I had this experience recently, and it was with some game, and I can't quite remember. I'm going to think about it while we go. Where all of a sudden I said, I can't subscribe to this happening in this game. It seems kind of, I think it was Skyward Sword.
I was gonna say, was it Skyward Sword?
I think it was when I was playing Skyward Sword HD the other day. Okay, I'm gonna meditate on that a little bit, and let's hand it over to Kate. Kate, we have been texting a little bit because we're both playing Skyward Sword together right now. Because what we're really doing is we're getting ready for our review episode next season.
Yes.
And it's complicated. There's love and hate for, well, maybe not hate, maybe that's a little strong, but there's playing Skyward Sword HD. So it sounds like for you, so I would say that, no, I'm not going to say what you would say. What would you say? Because what is your take?
What I'll say.
I'm just so worried that you're going to like really hate on this.
No.
All right. So Skyward Sword's world building.
Yeah. So, I mean, now that I have another way of thinking about it, it's not all bad. But I wonder if what, Dave, you were mentioning was the abrupt, like, all of a sudden, you have to fight the imprisoned all of a sudden again for some reason and do this all over again.
Absolutely.
And then you can go away for a little bit. And then you have to do it again 5 seconds later.
Well, I think I just realized something. Just because you said that, and Skyward Sword does do this a little bit, unfortunately. But anytime a game asks me to do something in which it takes me out of my like imagination of the game or my involvement of the game, and I go, oh, there's a game thing. Right. That's like maybe poor world building for me.
Takes you out of the world. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just like, wait, no, now I'm just annoyed. However, there's really good character development in the game, I think. Like, obviously, Groose is going to be a big example of a character that, at least when I was playing it, I was like, this guy is not going to be a part of this game. Like, it's just an annoying bully guy.
At the beginning, we'll never see him again.
Exactly. He's going to bug me for a while, and then he, like, really keeps coming in and changing and evolving, and there are other characters that have, frequent repeated involvement with. So like that, in that sense, I think it did a good job, and in other areas, not so much. So like the area that I think it lacks the most in is the just the number of places you can go.
I think the
because you go to the same places many times.
Yeah.
Well, there's like less cohesiveness. What's the word?
Cohesiveness is nice.
in the world, because it does feel a little bit, and I mean, honestly, Wind Waker has this factor a little bit, but less to an extreme, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But yeah, where it's like the islands or the Faron Woods and the volcano, and they're very disparate locations, and you don't have an Epona that you ride from location to location. Sure, you have your Loftwing and you drop down through the clouds, but like there isn't a big overworld.
Right.
It does feel a little more like we have a bunch of old school games, I guess. I'm thinking specifically this one, Lord of the Rings game we have for our GameCube, where like you go to a menu screen and you select a location, and then boop, you're just there. And you play, it's in individual levels. Exactly. And
I don't like
that
that.
feels a little bit, Skyward Sword has that vibe to me.
Yeah.
They sneak it.
They mask it by flying around a loft wing.
Correct.
But really, you're just in a menu.
You're flying through empty space
Right.
toward the button you push
And that's really,
to go to the volcano.
Well, original Assassin's Creed's kind of the same way as well, where
Yes.
like you just literally it expands where you can go in that one section you're at, but really you're like in the same area every single time you rotate 3 locations.
Right. And that's, yeah. So I think that is a weakness in world building. I agree with Kate in that, because it makes the world of the game feel less cohesive. Like if we're talking, like an Ocarina or a Twilight, right? Like where I'm riding Epona through the field from one location to another.
Yeah.
I feel like I have more of a sense to go back to my hatred of maps, apparently. But like I have more of a sense of how the whole world fits together and how the different elements interact with one another. Whereas with Skyward, you don't really have that. So yeah, I agree that that's a weakness.
I feel like if you were to read the book of Skyward Sword, the hypothetical book of Skyward Sword, there's a ton of world building.
Yes.
Like the lore, I guess, there's a ton of it. And
Yeah.
there is something to be said for that.
For sure.
And I guess we're really exploring the merging of those two things, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's two different halves, like what we were talking about. And I do think, though, that both of those things have to be strong for the world building, in my opinion, to be strong with a capital S, right? Like on the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a Zelda? Let's jump to a Zelda game, and then we'll go to break after this. That anyone, and open floor here, that anyone feels is a particularly strong example of world building for a Zelda game, 2D or 3D. If you think about something that really was, I guess, something that brought you in and established the universe quite well. I mean, honestly, Kate, is it Twilight Princess for you, or is it something different?
Twilight Princess is up there, but I would kind of put it in the middle to middle high, just because it is lacking still in terms of, I think it feels like you should be able to do more and go more places, but you can't quite. Mm-hmm. And that's just a limitation to the size that game could be. Mm-hmm. It was still obviously leaps ahead of previous games in some ways, but it was still limited in others. But I mean, great character development in that one as well, especially bringing in a brand new character that I think has since become really, I don't know if I'd use the word beloved, but really
I would use the word beloved.
So
Mallory's a massive Midna fan.
Okay, there you go. So you bring in this brand new character, and it means a lot to a lot of people, and you really care about that character at the end of the game, and so I think that was really effective. What my brain wants to jump to is Breath of the Wild, but I don't know that it has. That one is like so extreme on the physical world, and maybe not so much on the other things. Maybe because they're housed more so in like cutscenes instead of actually experiencing them.
Yeah, I agree. I think in Breath of the Wild, that world building, you're not building. It's weird. It's almost like you're not exploring someone else's world. You're kind of building your own world through experiences, which is a little weird. Yeah. But I want to circle back to Twilight Princess real quick. Yeah. And I don't know if Ryan or Mallory, if you have similar thoughts, but one thing to kind of get back to some of the aesthetics and like the completion of the area, Twilight Princess was the first Zelda game in release order for me that when I walked into someone's house, I like felt they lived there. Yeah. There was enough stuff on the tables. There were times I just stayed in the house and just looked around, and you kind of felt like, I mean, that's, if you're doing set design for theater or film, that's world building. You see all those little pots and pans and bottles and photographs,
textures.
That was that was superb. They hinted at it with Wind Waker, but Wind Waker was a little more simple. So you maybe just get a little flower pot on a table, and they were practicing some of the physics. But for me, Twilight Princess, and the Skyward Sword did it as well, but Twilight Princess executed that very well, which Breath of the Wild does too. I don't know, Mallory, Ryan, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I mean, Twilight Princess, I was on my list for ones that I thought had some of the strongest world building. That's a part of it for sure. I also really like, and I think this mechanic I'm about to talk about does limit where you're able to go in the game, which is frustrating in some aspects. But I think the fact that there's like basically a whole alternate reality, an alternate world that is within the world, right? With the Twilight being, you can wander around the Twilight and you see the ghosts of the people that are in the real world right now. I think that was a very cool world building element that I really liked in Twilight Princess. Breath of the Wild, I think, is an obvious choice for great world building. However, I will say from like a lore storyline perspective, this is like just a personal opinion. I personally don't love the Zelda timeline. And so I think for me, where the world building struggles in Breath of the Wild is that they're like, oh yeah, this is just at the end of the timeline for all the games. Enjoy. So they're trying to like tie together a bunch of different timelines within one game, which struggles a little bit. So
I was getting
some kisses.
I was getting doggy kisses.
Like in 2 seconds, he jumped on the couch and got kisses from Kate. I agree. Now, I just thought about something too. For a second, I thought, oh, when I walk into a shop or a town in Breath of the Wild, I don't know if you feel this way, Ryan. I was thinking like, oh, but also Breath of the Wild is very detailed when I walk into shops. But weirdly, I think it's a little more abstract than Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess, you know why that table's there. You know why that bottle is there when you look at it. It's as if you're like looking at someone's, I guess, set design. With Breath of the Wild, there's a lot of detail, but sometimes you walk into a shop or a house and you're kind of like, how does someone live here? Or, you know what I mean? Or you go into those...
Judgmental, David.
Or even all of Zora's Domain. I don't want to be nitpicky because I love Zora's Domain, but you're kind of like, how is this a town?
Yeah.
It's cool. I don't know, Ryan, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I do agree with you. I honestly, for me, the one game for me that has really good world building and like great lore is Majora's Mask. I think you have a great story with the Skull Kid and the 4 giants coming in. I think you have a good world around you. Granted, you have like all the extremes. You have like a snow tundra, you have the beach, you have everything in one little area. So like they kind of give you all the extremes, but I feel like that's just a typical video game thing to do anyways. But like as a good package of lore and world building, I think to me that's one of the better games.
Yeah, it really does it dives in deep with story right off the bat.
Yeah.
World building story. The 3 days things, Kate and I have kind of talked about this in the past. The 3 days things did one thing. It allowed all the NPCs to have purpose.
Yeah.
You know, by accident, every NPC has purpose. And so when an NPC, Wind Waker or Twilight Princess, you go to Castle Town and it's hustling and bustling and it's super cool aesthetically, but it's a bit of smoke and mirrors. Those things those people are just on tracks and they're just avoiding each other. It feels great, but they're basically extras in the background of a film or something like that.
Yeah.
In Majora's Mask, when someone walks by you in the city, they're walking by you because they're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that you start to, I guess, oh, there it is. It's the you get lost in the game. You're not thinking, oh, that's a game thing. Like Castletown people walking is super cool, but you're like, okay, they're just avoiding each other. They're just on a track. That's a game thing. In Majora's Mask, you can trust what you're seeing. It has something to do with the world that's happening.
Because on day 1, nothing will be there, but you come back day 2 and there's the Keaton mask, or the way to get to Keaton mask at least is right there, and then day 3 obviously it's gone again. So you get more details at all the different little characters.
And you have the ability to affect like the fates of those NPCs more so, right? It's kind of almost, and yes, it resets after 3 days, and then
you do it again.
You don't again. Yeah, you're working with somebody else, but and that's a very interesting element of Majora's Mask too. That because I love Majora's Mask.
Like the stakes are constantly different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they do. You have to view Majora's Mask not as a hike up a mountain, but like laps around a track. And every time around that track, it's going to be a little different. And once you kind of put your brain in that space and you go, listen, I'm just gonna loop through this thing over and over and over, and I'm gonna learn about these people until I guess it is kind of like Groundhog's Day, until I know enough that I know what to do for everybody. That's what that game's about. But anyway.
Yeah.
Man, I would like that game so much more if it weren't for the counting down
The
part.
literal counting down?
If it were still repeating, but I could take my freaking time, I would like it so much.
I will say I've talked about this before many times, but like I get very stressed out with timers too. And there are certain 3-day tasks in Majora's Mask that are like nail bitey. Like I'm stressed out about this, but I feel like the majority of it, like you have time. Like,
majority.
Interesting. Well, I think we should go to break here
because everyone's laughing too hard to continue.
Fun, yeah.
No. Everyone's laughing too hard. They got to catch their breath. No. Just I'm looking at the clock. We should go to break and we'll come back and continue this conversation.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Mike.
And we are brothers-in-law. We both love beer and are amateur home brewers.
Wait, so does that make us brothers-in-law?
I believe so.
Every episode, we will talk about aspects of beer and home brewing.
But nothing super technical because we're learning this too.
So join us as we sit down together and dive into something beer-related.
Whether it's a little field research, tasting a certain beer style, or beers from a specific brewery,
Talk about our experiences brewing beer at home, including our own solo brews, as well as themed competitions we'll set up along the way.
we will also talk about some of our favorite aspects of brewing, like hops, extra ingredients, building our brew cave, and more. And of course, our own misadventures that have happened along the way.
So, if you like beer, are home brewing already,
Or if you have an interest in home brewing and don't know where to start,
join us on Brothers-in-Law Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
and make sure to follow us on Twitter at Brothers-in-Law and check out our website, brothersinlaw.com.
Cheers.
Cheers.
One heist, 6 plots for betrayal. When Raya Cautela cons 5 other thieves into helping her steal a magical artifact from the most powerful man in the world, she knows she's playing with fire. What she doesn't know is that the rest of her crew is just as underhanded as she is, and they all have plans of their own. M.J. Kuhn's Among Thieves, a fantasy heist novel full of twists, turns, and betrayal, available beginning September 7th wherever books are sold. Visit mjkuhn.com for more details.
And we're back from the break. Hi guys, how you doing? We had a quite eventful break there.
Yes.
We had dogs barking and people pretending to
people?
be mail carriers. Isn't that right?
We lead an exciting life.
Indeed. All right, so we were kind of talking about Breath of the Wild there a little bit with world building. I want to try a little experiment to get us kind of into maybe a different form of conversation here. Not that I wasn't pleased with the conversation that was happening in the first act. I certainly was. I want to try a little like flash assessment here. I'm going to go through some of these games and we're going to try to speak about if we think they have good world building or not and why. And if we haven't played the game, that's okay.
Okay.
It might be all over the board. I'm going to start with, Kate, this might be kind of for you. Was that funny?
Oh.
Ooh, that was organic.
Anyways.
This is me, Mallory. Okay. Why can't you accept it?
I find it delightful.
How about Minish Cap? I think only Kate and I can speak to that.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to pull my brain back
Remember,
to
it's that 2D
there then.
one.
Yeah.
It's got the town in the middle, all the kinstones.
Mm-hmm.
Minish Cap. Do you think they do a good job world building or not?
I mean, I think it's pretty good for
Yeah.
what it was at the time and everything. I do like that it came up with something different than just like a travel through time thing
true.
or kind of like a repetitive Zelda trope, which can obviously happen. But this was different, so a different kind of mechanic.
Yeah.
And I think that it used that to its advantage. I did like because of that, the graphics changing and even the music changing,
When you say graphics changing, you're talking about like when you get small and big and
Right,
stuff?
yeah.
Yeah, right.
And just looking different. So.
Because Mallory and Ryan, when you're a normal character, the graphics are basically pixel art, like normal Zelda-looking pixel art. But when you shrink down, all of a sudden the sprites become just enormous, and like a beautifully rendered leaf covers up half the screen or something like that. Is kind of what you're talking about. Kate?
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's a nice little addition and surprise that kind of maybe speaks to what you're talking about with Twilight Princess. Like there's a world within a world, and so it's a kind of extra layer to that, which was cool. Remind me, don't yell at me, listeners. Was this one where you're also talking to animals, or was that a different?
When you're Minish or Picori, I can't remember which way it goes. When you're small,
You can talk to animals.
I think you
Yes.
can talk to animals.
But it's not the one with like the animal village. That's a different one.
That's
Animal
Link's
Village.
Awakening.
Thank you.
That's like
Okay,
what-
thank
right?
you.
Link's Awakening.
I was
Link's
getting
Awakening
those-
has an animal village. Yeah, Link's Awakening, all the animals just talk.
Yeah.
They're all kind of anthropomorphized or whatever. I'm getting a little tongue-tied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Minish Cap's pretty good there too. It was actually the beginning of the timeline before Skyward Sword existed. So that was kind of interesting. And remember, one thing we thought was cute was that it's not Hyrule Town. It was like Hyrule Village,
Mm-hmm.
I think is the main area. It's kind of supposed to be somewhat canonical.
I mean, I think it does have a couple advantages with the differences in size and the kind of bonus world and the bonus things that go along with it, the different abilities and different things that you can do and see. Other than that, yeah, it's fine.
Let's try A Link to the Past. Ryan, I know you're a fan. It was your first Zelda.
It was my first, yeah.
Does it world build well?
I think there's some good points to it. Actually, this was one of my notes I had written down was the Dark World, which is a kind of a mirror of what the regular world is. And in doing my research with it when Ganon touched it in this case and the Triforce and changed it to the Dark World, the inhabitants all changed to reflect what their mind and heart is.
Yeah, right.
So there's a character who is a big bully that pushes people around. He's now a monster. There was another instance that another guy who can't make up his mind on what he wants to do, so he turned into like a ball and was just bounced around a lot in what he was doing.
That would be me.
Yeah.
I'm a ball.
Someone involved in nature turned into a tree at one point. So like you see who you truly are within that world. I thought that was an interesting view of a game because you as Link turn into a pink bunny, like
right.
And from what I read, as I said, you're kind of innocent and defenseless all at the same time. You can't really do anything to protect yourself because you're just a cute little pink bunny. So it's interesting to see that aspect of a game.
I do feel that most of the areas, Kate, maybe you would agree, maybe not, that it does feel cohesive. You know, it does feel like it's an existing land. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be enormous, but I think at the time it was probably pretty big. When you're traveling from one area to another, it feels contextual.
Yeah, you got the desert off by itself within a canyon. That kind of makes sense. You got mountains off to the top. That makes sense. So it's not like it's not like in Majora's Mask where you go around the Clock Town and there's snow. Oh wait, now there's a jungle. Oh wait, now there's a beach, and like it makes a little more sense. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Actually, yeah. Majora's Mask. Once you're outside of Clock Town or whatever, that's a little. I mean, I guess aesthetically, world connectivity building. That's a little rough. That is. Oh, you know what's interesting is so Majora's Mask was Eiji Aonuma's first one that he produced. And I think Eiji Aonuma was a brilliant person who has really brought the Zelda franchise into a great place. But look at the pattern here. Majora's Mask, we're kind of going out to 3 hubs. The next thing is Wind Waker, where you're kind of hot hitting just not the hubs, but these things that you were mentioning, Mallory. And then the next one, Skyward Sword, where flying around is essentially navigating through a menu as much as they try to have it not be.
Right.
They didn't try that hard.
Tell me how you really feel.
So salty.
She is pulling no punches.
No. Just wait for the review episode.
Oh man. Well. Let's actually, let's try one here. How do you feel about Link's Awakening, Kate? I think we've all played Link's Awakening, at least the remake.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is, again, it's unique. So I think that it's effective in that kind of sense that it did something completely different. And that one was so like story driven.
Yeah, actually it was.
Whereas I was gonna say for Minish Cap, I don't even remember really lore or story from that one, so I don't think it was that effective or strong. I mean, or I have a terrible memory, which is definitely part of it.
I think where Minish Cap did suffer a touch was it was a little bit like go find the 5 things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And sometimes you're small.
Yeah.
So while it made that interesting, it wasn't that complex. But yeah, I think Link's Awakening, they were so focused on this story element and trying to make it interesting. Like that was their goals, to make it weird and interesting. So I do think it's more effective.
The world is bonkers. So from that way, you're like, well, no,
Yes.
what? One time you're talking to a witch, then you're talking to a hippo, then you're like floating in a thing, and then there's an egg. So that could be like that's terrible world building. That's like I don't even know, like some kind of modernist piece of work to have this be so crazy, but they stuck to it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's consistently bonkers. Like I think if you have a game, like if you had, Twilight Princess, and all of a sudden you're talking to a hippo, okay, that makes no sense.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But like since nothing makes sense, everything makes sense. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed the world building in Link's Awakening. I enjoyed Link's Awakening in general, but I like found myself like emotionally affected at several points in the game. You know what I mean? So it's like I was obviously connecting with these characters. And the funny thing about Link's Awakening is technically the world doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So
my
it's
mind blowing.
I found that one very interesting in like a mind-bendy sort of way. I think it was strong in the world building, in my opinion.
Any quick thoughts there, Ryan?
No, I think everything's right there. It's interesting to see how you were built up to this whole thing, and all of a sudden, it's not real.
Right.
It's just like
But it
Inception, and like not Inception. It's Shutter Island.
Yeah.
Island a little bit, where you think you know what's going on, all of a sudden, oh no.
But in a weird way, you're a character in the Shutter Island guys universe. But anyway.
Yeah.
And it's effective.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you don't really feel cheated at the end. You
yeah,
don't. It
that's
feels
what I
like
was
what you
gonna
did
say.
was real. I want to talk about the Oracle games real quick, and I think I'm the only one of the four of us that have played them.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Not a problem. I think they do a phenomenal job of world building. They are a little bit like Link's Awakening or maybe even Majora's Mask, where you're going to a new place. You're not in Hyrule for either. So every screen that scrolls, every character you meet, you're building more story and lore of what happened there, what's happening, and all of that. And it's all tremendously consistent. Oracle of Ages has a very consistent world building. Okay. So Gingsy's almost home.
I was just gonna say that.
The jazz music just started. Did you notice we switched into evening mode here?
I did notice that.
The house is alive, Kate. The house is
okay,
alive.
this is all
David has a
fine.
very high-tech home, listeners.
You locking my door tonight. That's for
So,
sure.
Oracle of Ages. There's a little piece of magnet tape in front of your door so the robots can't come in.
Okay, thank you.
It's not a lie. That's not a lie. Okay, we gotta keep going. All right, so yeah, wonderful job world building. It's all new, so it's kind of fun. You're learning about a new one. And the difference from Link's Awakening is that even though Link's Awakening being bonkers is fun, with Oracle Ages and Seasons, everything you're learning, you feel like you are adding to the thing that you feel like you're learning about a new place every time you're moving through either of those lands. Ocarina, we haven't done Ocarina
I literally
yet.
was just gonna say, are we gonna go through this whole episode? Because when in the beginning, when you were like, what game in Zelda do you think is the strongest in world building? And I'm very public about that Ocarina is not my favorite of the Zelda games. I do like it, but I wouldn't list it even in like my top 3. But I would list it as my number 1 in terms of world building because I think it's very strong in my opinion at least, in what Kate was talking about with the overworld and feeling cohesive and feeling like you're free to explore and like the places are real and you can kind of maneuver around them. And also I feel like it really grounds you in the lore in the beginning when you're talking to the Deku Tree. And I just think it's a very strong introduction really to more complex Zelda games.
Here.
Yeah,
I
think
agree
it's
completely.
strong.
I agree completely.
Yeah, those scenes in the beginning and then also with the Deku Tree are like so good. I still like watching them now. I'm just sitting there like with my head in my hands like, oh, look at
Like
the
a little
movie.
movie. Yeah.
The goddesses go. Wow, they're so pretty. Look at them creating a world and I'm totally invested. And it makes sense. Sometimes the Zelda games get convoluted with the story and you're like, sorry, who's doing what now and who has to be what in what timeline and where's this? But like this one just makes sense to me, the way that they introduce the game, like this is what happened and this was what was created and here we are now.
Simple and effective.
Exactly,
Yes.
Exactly.
I agree completely. Have you had I think you have not had the opportunity to play the 3D remake yet, right?
No.
Okay. If you ever do, it's awesome. I'd even be happy to lend it to you. It is no different, but the graphics are a little better, but it still feels like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, they
So
make a lot of
if
changes.
in Ocarina of Time there was like just a big green polygon for grass, it's still a big green polygon in the 3D one, but they just pepper in some literal grass sprites.
Oh.
And it really fills in some of that world building too. Actually, I think the two of you have played it a bit on the 3DS.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, do they flesh out the interiors a little bit more too, or maybe not?
A tiny bit, like a little more detail, but like it still looks like it's just there's a random pot on the counter and that's it. It doesn't do
Actually, that's a
anything
really
else.
good point.
Yeah.
You can walk into some of those houses in Kakiri Village and you're like, how does someone live here?
Yes. there's
They
Dumb
can't
pot.
live here
a
after
kitchen with
I've been
nothing
there. I will break all of the pots.
Let's see. Any other thoughts about Ocarina? It feels like we all agree, which sometimes makes
No,
a short conversation.
Yeah, it definitely is a really good one. It's the story of how everything started before Skyward it was even thought of.
Right.
So you had the 3 golden goddesses explain how they made the land.
That's true.
Became the Triforce, and then you're thrown right into the game. You know what's going on.
That's true.
And I think the time passing is a really effective part of that too. Making it go from night to day to night to day to night to day. It's like you're really in there. There are consequences to traveling at night versus traveling at day, or going to a city at different times. So I think that brought a whole new level.
Yeah, the first time I walked into Castletown and like a door was locked and said open at 6 p.m. or open at 2 a.m., I was like, what?
Right?
This world is alive?
Well,
It was
even
cool.
the passage of the 7 years, right? Like it's almost, it makes you realize all of the great parts or like the things you've lost.
Yeah.
Now that the world is, dying.
It's dire
Yeah.
for a couple hours when you first travel 7 years forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my sister kind of was like emotionally not really wanting to go forward at that point.
No, like walking through Castletown in the 7 years forward, especially since Redeads are my least favorite thing ever.
Yes.
But like it's emotional because like, oh, those were dancing couples and now they're literally zombies.
Yep.
I guess you're
Dark.
right. Yeah.
Dark.
Anyway,
Spoopy.
on that happy note.
Interesting. So we did Ocarina. Really did. Yeah. Sometimes Ocarina, even we've talked about it, Kate. It's like, oh well, it's just kind of a classic story though, but they really did it right, didn't they?
Yes. And that's why it's one of the, most classic beloved games, I think. It's been including within the Zelda gameography.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, okay. Herman's going to
of a
go. A little bit of interruption here. I believe Ginksy just got home, so Herman's running to the back of the. There it is.
Barky
Back of the
McBark.
condo. I think we can kind of wrap it up here, even though there's a quicker second half. I kind of don't want it to end, but just because, again, thank you so much, Kuhn's, for driving so far. Kate also for driving quite far.
Wasn't as far.
Not as far, but it's still
Michigan.
It was 2 hours
Yeah,
plus.
geez.
I think you guys were like 6 or 7 hours.
Five.
No, it was like 5.5.
5? Oh,
It's
that's
really
not
not
bad.
that bad.
They're staying in a hotel over, kind of like in Wrigleyville right now. Apparently, really enjoying it.
It's
Very
super
nice.
nice. Come
Yeah.
to Wrigleyville, guys. It's nice. I'm being an advertisement for Wrigleyville.
Any final comments about Wind Waker, Mallory? We kind of skipped. There's other things. There's Four Swords Adventures. There's the Phantom Hourglasses and the whatevers.
Maybe
I
we
think-
could do world building part 2.
I mean, we could return.
Ooh,
We
we
could
could.
return to it. I don't think there's much to be said about like some of those the DS world building games. There's a little
Yeah.
bit, but any closing comments about Wind Waker? Because we did kind of skirt over that.
Yeah, I like Wind Waker. I had some notes on it as well. My just 2 points I'll hit. Point number 1 is more of an LOL aside. Another shot I'm going to take at the Zelda timeline. I think it's hilarious that in the version of the world where it floods, the Zora get turned into birds.
Yes.
I have said that so many times. It's just, that's one of the retrofits that did not work.
It makes total sense.
Square peg, round hole.
You can read
no.
my blog and I explain how that happens. So.
Okay.
In one of your blog posts?
Yes.
Yeah, I think isn't there some goddess intervention? I think or something.
Yeah.
like
No,
that?
there are giant creatures in the water, so they wanted to get out of the water, so they flew instead.
So they flew.
Oh,
There were more evil creatures in the water.
I see.
So
Well, we feel very safe for traveling in the world's
Yeah.
tiniest boat then.
exactly.
World's tiniest boat.
But the only other thing I have is that I think that the lore in the game of the goddesses deciding to flood the world when it became too evil is interesting because it's a play off of several common myths, Noah's Ark being probably the most famous, but then there's
Sure.
also Prometheus' son, Deucalion, in Greek mythology, when Zeus tried to flood the world for the same reason. So I just think it's interesting that they kind of fold on
I think in
some
the
of those.
timeline, the world never unfloods either. I think, when you go into Phantom Hourglass and then into Spirit Tracks, they find
you're
new
right.
land in Spirit Tracks.
Right.
But I don't think the water goes back down per se.
They just leave
In
it.
Breath of the Wild. Yeah.
Oh.
Water's
Breath.
How do you guys? Okay, talking about world building. Here's the last thing. I want to know how you feel about this, and then we'll say our thanks and all that kind of stuff. When you look at the Zelda timeline right now, the way Nintendo has it displayed, they've got their Hyrule Historia, then it splits, but then there is a separate and not connected horizontal line, and underneath that line is Breath of the Wild, implying that it is not even connected to the timeline. Any feelings about this? I have one thought that I've talked about on the show. Maybe you guys know, but I think the fight. Oh, Kate's smiling in an
Oh
interesting
no, I'm
way.
smiling at the dog.
Oh, okay.
That's fair.
Got
All
distracted.
right, let me just cut to the chase. How does anyone feel? Kate, we've talked about this a little bit. How does anyone feel about the idea that it might be difficult to accept this at first, and I'm not like campaigning for it, but it's a consideration.
I think you're campaigning for it.
What if what if Nintendo has decided that Breath of the Wild is reality and all the other Legends of Zelda games are literal legends in that reality?
10 out of 10, 100 out of 10. Love it.
You like
No,
it?
because that's in my brain. This has always been, I think I read it online somewhere, so I'm not going to take credit for this headcanon, but my preferred interpretation of the different stories is that each of the stories is a legend that's been passed down, and maybe it's all based on the same link, but we know how, oral traditions go and the story changes over time depending on who's telling it. And so, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, these are all the same story, just passed through generations differently. And then Breath of the Wild is, okay, we can start fresh and maybe they'll make like a real timeline now. But when they first began building the games, the timeline wasn't a plan. And I think retrofitting it, if you like the retrofit timeline, live your dreams. I'm happy for you. But just, I don't think they needed to do that. I prefer to just think of the games as different stories within the same genre.
I mean, the name's right there. It's right there.
It's a legend. Yeah.
Legend of Zelda. So Breath of the Wild, all of the references to all these different stories and characters and legends that exist are fun Easter eggs and a little bit of nostalgia. You've got these different islands and hills and towns named certain things.
But it could
the
be
idea
pieces of the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And maybe the link from Ocarina of Time is the same link from Majora's Mask, and details get switched around and changed around a little bit. Yeah. The first time it's actually addressed like by Nintendo in a game, I think is Wind Waker, when they referenced the Ocarina of Time castle down there in the ocean. That's the first time you really get like a direct connection.
Stained glass. Yep.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So world building. So Breath of the Wild is the world. Deal with it. No, I'm just joking.
That is our professional opinion as Zelda experts. Good night. No discussions or questions, please. Thank you.
No discussions or questions, please. Kate, thank you so much for. Well, actually, I think I have to go the other way here. Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Truly a pleasure. I know we have another episode that we'll be recording that I'm looking forward to next season. Thank you for the drive. Thank you for your time. If people want to find you or your other podcast, Brothers-in-Law, which some production company called Sixfive makes or something.
Yeah, you're the overlord, we call you.
But where can people give the elevator pitch of the show, and then where can people find you for all your stuff?
So pretty much we are amateurs for home brewing. So we lay it out there. We don't know everything. Our first episode is misadventures, and we have plenty of stories to continue doing that every single time we start a season. We talk about home brewing, beers that we've brewed. We do a little field research and trying out beers that are around us. And we've done a crossover with you guys, obviously, and another one will be coming soon.
Yes. So some of the AZP members, well, you and Mike custom brewed a couple Zelda beers, of which one I believe is with us tonight for our holiday party.
Yes.
How cool is that?
Very cool. I'm excited.
I honestly get like a little. It's like one of those Etsy things. It's like you get a little nerded out about it. But we were able to join you for the season finale of season 1, and I believe a different Sixfive show is joining for the finale of season 2, and I think it's the turn by turn.
It is turn by turn. Yep. So I don't want to give anything away, but we do have some beer ideas coming with the particular game.
I was going to say, does this mean you're going to brew beers themed on a different game, another game? I can't wait.
Yep.
Very excited.
Yep.
So they can find you what? Is it brewthersinlaw.com, I think we have?
Brewthersinlaw.com. So that's BREWTHERS. And you can find us also on TikTok with the same thing and Twitter with the same thing.
Amazing. Let's see. Mallory. So many facial expressions.
She's good at that.
Where can people find you? We didn't even talk about Among Thieves in this episode at all.
That's okay. We don't always have to plug it, but we can plug Among Thieves. No, so I do. If you guys like fantasy novels, I do have a fantasy novel that came out. It's called Among Thieves. It's a fantasy heist. But you can find me all over the internet. I'm everywhere. So TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I am at MJ Kuhn Books, all one word. And then also mjkuhn.com is my website.
Marvelous. And Kate, people can find you over on Instagram, I know.
Yeah, that's like it. I don't do the internet.
You have a wonderful kind of serialized building of the Home Alone Lego house right now going on?
I do.
I'm really enjoying it.
It's like my adult child advent calendar because I also have a beer advent calendar. So I'm drinking a different beer every day.
Is that why?
Yes. And then building a bag of the Lego Home Alone house every day. And my Instagram is I only take cat and dog pics. But also Lego and beer ones.
I guess Lego and beer now, too.
Yeah, I can't
that
keep
handle's
changing.
just going to get longer and longer.
I know. I can't keep doing it.
I only take dog and cat
and Lego and beer and
and
running.
marathon pics.
And travel and
I only take pictures of my life.
Yeah, you know, I know. Weird. Who does that? But that's pretty much the only place you can find me because social media exhausts me.
I mean, fair.
I mean, a little for me too. I'm eternally grateful for Celeste helping us with some of our social media for Zelda and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People can find me personally on Instagram and Twitter at Raptor Paint. That's good enough. I'm not on any of the other things. But I do engage on Instagram and Twitter as much as possible. The show can be found on Instagram at Another Zelda Podcast, on Twitter at Another Zelda Pod. You know, I can say all this stuff. Go find us on YouTube, find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify. We're on all those things by searching Another Zelda Podcast. But the truth is, if you go to our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com, literally everything hubs from there. We have all of our links to our social stuff. We have a couple like fun, weird little interviews we've done with some other companies. I have a couple. I kind of indulged and made a couple Apple Music Zelda themed playlists that are available on the website. But more importantly, even more excitingly, we have a blog series that comes out just about was it every 3-4 weeks right now. I think it's kind of like coming out in between episodes for AZP. As of this recording, Mallory, the most recent episode I think post was yours.
Yeah.
In which you pitched a concept for a Breath of the Wild prequel film, you could say.
So there's tons of blogs. They're awesome. Yeah. Should check them out.
Indeed, absolutely. So people can go there and check out all those things. And thank you so much. If you're inclined to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, it would be much appreciated. And Ryan, thank you again for being here. Truly, it was a treat and a pleasure. Mallory as well. Kate, I'm so happy to see you again, and I'm happy to have you up here in Chicago.
Yeah, it's awesome to meet everybody.
Hey, I'll see you in the season finale.
Mm-hmm.
And
because we've already been there in the future past.
In the future past. I don't know what our first episode for season 5 is going to be, but we'll figure it out. And I'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.